Hi guys, here we are for a very special episode of the Comic Book Syndicate. We're coming to you from Vermouth in Windsor, Ontario here with Kevin and George Rizak, and we're here to review something different. This is a collection of comic strips from the mid-1930s. It reprints the famous Flash Gordon comic strip by Alex Raymond. To give a quick history, it was partially inspired by the Buck Rogers series of fiction, sort of short stories and comic strips.
Right.
And this was obviously turned into a serial in the, I think it was 40s, and that serial actually partially inspired Star Wars by George Lucas. We'd like to first of all thank Tom Green from Titan Books for sending us this book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we love it when people send us material to review like this, and this is probably one of the more gorgeous things I've ever seen come through that mail slot.
Now, to give a quick overview, for me it was interesting because this is it's a very hefty read, and one of the things I found, there was really no break in the story. So pretty much you're reading these weekend Sunday strips,
right? And
there's really no clear beginning, and there's endings, but then they pretty much the next week pick it up with a new storyline. It kind of just keeps going and going and going. So you kind of have to know that going in to be prepared for that type of storyline. But I mean, as a fan of science fiction, as a fan of Star Wars, I really enjoyed these stories. And before we go into too much detail, George, what was your impression as a modern reader reading this from the 1930s?
Yeah, because again, aside from the introduction, the artwork is so incredible. Like you're saying, it flows in such a way. It's not traditional comics as we know them today. This is before all that. This is before comic books. This is newspaper where you waited a week to read the next
These are the
Sundays, the color ones. So to me, that's just, kids collected them probably in in binders and stuff like that, and to sit there and follow this story was for me difficult just because the artwork was so beautiful to look at, so above and beyond what I see in our daily stuff that we see today. It's gorgeous. Who doesn't want a sword fight, a flying swordfish space monster? It's just beautiful. And it was I think I was equating it mostly to a Leonardo da Vinci or a Michelangelo, but in comic book form. You know what I mean? With all this, it's absolutely gorgeous.
So, Kevin, were you familiar with Flash Gordon before you read this collection?
Mike, I have to admit that I was kind of a comic book snob before. I knew about Flash Gordon. I've heard about Buck Rogers. I've heard about Dick Tracy, these adventure comic strips, and the influence that they've had with writers and artists that we've known in comic books. So I never had an interest to get into them, but until now with these types of publications and these publishers like Titan Books, I'm really excited because it gives us a chance to go back to these. They're hard to find, and really learn about how they influenced our comic books, our movies, and it was a whole new venture for me.
Yeah, and the old collections, as far as the ones that I saw, I would find them used bookstores and stuff like that, were always just bits and pieces.
Right.
Like a little bit from 1936, and then a little bit from you never got. This is beautiful.
Yeah, this is a chronological wording, and for those, I'm a huge hardcover collection junkie, as you know, I love them. So to hear that they're going to do almost 50 years of chronological all the Flash Gordon comic strips is just is so amazing.
But I think it's unfortunate because with comic book readers like us, most of us really only are aware of the continuing characters like Batman, Superman, the Flash, Spider-Man, the ones that have been going for 70 years, whereas Flash Gordon kind of comes and goes, right? There's been revivals.
There's one presently going on right now.
Oh, is there?
There is a Flash Gordon that is in syndication right now. It's sort of pales in comparison, but it's to this flavor.
Sure, okay. And see, it's important because the average person in the street, there's a lot of people, when I talk about this with people, they don't know who Flash Gordon is. No. They think it's the Flash.
Yeah, for sure.
The speedster. And so this is important to history.
Well, it is, and I think the part of the problem is that we're just concentrating on the now and not realizing these influenced where we're at today. And some people might find when they're reading it and stuff that it's primitive, and I don't like to use that. I think it's primitive in terms of the medium, that they were still trying to figure it out, and that's what's cool about it, because I didn't find it primitive in terms of the storytelling or the art. The art was amazing,
beautiful.
But I think in terms of them trying to figure out how they wanted to tell the story with the art, it's a little new. So some people might be like, well, I've heard this story before, because you don't realize everything's based on, this is the foundation.
Well, it's not just based on that, but there is some language issues, as you always get in the older books, and where you get people from the 30s trying to talk like it's the future, but still the hip terms of that era. You know what I mean? So there is, and for that, just as a, I would want a kid to do a high school project on this. You know what I mean? It's almost Shakespeare. It's great.
I would use the word primal. I mean, the ideas that come across in this, like for example, the Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back is directly inspired by the city that these Hawkmen live in. Hawkman was directly inspired by the Hawkman in this comic.
Yeah,
I mean, they have light bridges and these.
Yeah, there's that, and there's also there's a serious, sexy element to it that I think maybe for that era was probably risque. I didn't live then, but you know, even some of the stuff I'm looking at, I'm like, that's pretty hot. You know what I mean? And comic books have always had a little bit of that edge to them, and I could only imagine that this had to be some of the beginnings of that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I think when you take it away, like you take the illustrations away and you actually read it, they read like short stories, and they're actually there's great narration, there's great description in them. I think the thing is that it's really interesting too, when King Features took this, they said to Alex Raymond that you're getting too detailed. And if Alex Raymond hadn't done that, I don't think it would be where it's at.
Sure.
He made it so realistic. The anatomy is incredible.
Beautiful.
And I think a lot of artists today could learn a lot from this.
Yeah, well,
and one of the propagators of the greatest disappointment of the modern era, the jetpack. If it wasn't for guys like this, who would be dreaming of jetpacks?
I also want to quickly point out that I actually noticed a striking similarity between Alex Raymond's art and the art of Wayne Boring, the famous Superman artist from the mostly the 50s. But I'm looking at these and I'm like, wow, like I love Wayne Boring, but clearly he really was sort of imitating Alex Raymond, you know? And that's the thing, is that this is as important to history as Superman is.
I think the only thing with it there, though, is being the first book, is I thought they should put maybe a little bit more into about Flash Gordon and Alex Raymond, just because you're trying to sell this first volume, get people interested.
Sure.
And I found that they started to get into it. I know there's going to be 2 more volumes with Alex Raymond, so there'll be a lot more information.
But I think
well done. Yeah, really well
setting
done.
the tone of the era was, I think, absolutely necessary.
Really.
Now, the thing is there's also other versions of these stories that have been done. And Kevin, you've actually read these other reproductions. How does this compare to the other ones?
They do really well, actually. I mean, the other one that's out right now is, if you're a big Alex Raymond fan and a Flash Gordon, there is from IDW. They make a larger one. It's almost a newspaper size. They also focus on not just Flash Gordon, but Jungle Jim, which was also done at the same time.
Okay.
In terms of restoration, though, if people want to know about that, they do a pretty good job based on, it's really hard to find an original material, so I think they really tried to keep it to that original, and so
people know there is no original artwork. Like, there's no black and white pencils to reprint from.
No,
they're actually taking Sunday funny pages and scanning those.
And they do a great job in this. They do a beautiful job of letting you feel that, but also not giving you all the crinkles and bends in the old paper. They're cleaning it up, but not too much. They're not cleaning up so much that you're looking at flat colors and too bright and something that seems out of time. This looks like you're holding that newspaper for the first time.
Yeah, and they did a really good job. I think there's a few areas, and they make note of it, is because of the size of it. It's a good size. You can read the panels clearly, but there wasn't a period where the Flash Gordon went the full page, so it does turn over onto the next page.
And you get a decent workout.
It's a beautiful copy. I mean, look, you don't even need a slip cover for it. It's well done. I mean, the look of it.
So if we can move on to recommendation. I'm totally.
5 Sons, what do you give it out of?
I have 5 for sure. I would spend the $50, I believe it is.
Yeah, it's
$50 on this, no problem, and be excited to spend another $100 on the other 2.
Kevin?
I definitely, like I said, the only thing is, if you're a huge Alex Raymond fan, you might look at the other book. However, for price-wise, value, and overall collection, I know that I'm going to continue to buy these from Titan Books. They've done a bang-up job with them. They really have.
And for me, the expression when people say it was good for back then has no meaning.
No.
This is excellent. Alex Raymond is one of the most important artists in comics history. I give it 5 Sons, and I recommend. This is absolutely worth the price tag. So pick this up. This is Flash Gordon from Titan Books, and it's excellent. Thank you very much.